That is a 2021 Toyota Sienna that we've tested for 40,000 miles. And I already know what you're thinking. A minivan, isn't this car and driver? Yes. And here's an open industry secret. If you measure a car enthusiast by how they actually use their vehicle for its intended function, you won't find a more serious car enthusiast than a minivan owner. Think of all the sports cars that you see driven woefully under their capabilities in stop-and-go traffic to power lunches and golf games. Think about all the off-road vehicles you see parked in parking lots without any scratches or trail markings on them. No, it's minivans that actually get used for what they're made to do. I mean, why else would you get one? And use this thing for its intended purpose is exactly what Car and Driver did for the past 40,000 miles. Our 40,000 mile test isn't a mere year-long loan made possible by Toyota. It's a comprehensive ownership test that unveils problems typical owners might experience in their first few years with their new vehicle. We wanted to test the Sienna because it offers a unique proposition among minivans. Not only is it a hybrid, the first hybrid Sienna in fact, but it's also available with all-wheel drive. New technologies or new applications of technologies are key reasons why we choose vehicles for this test. Now, we picked the cypress green color and the limited trim level, which is the second most expensive trim level among the Sienna, or on the Sienna. We added a couple options too, like a rear view camera system, a rear flip down entertainment system, an AC power inverter, a compact spare tire, and a few other things which brought the as-listed price to a hair beneath $52,000. Overall, what did we learn about our Sienna? Well, it was a highly comfortable and very usable road trip partner, and that's exactly what we expected from it. There were some annoying quirks that you should be aware of depending on how you want to use your minivan, but overall this ended up being the family schlepper du jour of our long-term fleet, as one editor put it. Hi there. A key aspect of minivans is the space behind the first row and how many people you can seat and how you can configure this area. Now, the limited Sienna is different because it's only available in a 7-seat capacity with captain's chairs in the second row. Other Siennas have an 8-seat capacity that has a bench in this space. So if you need to fit 8 people, those are the ones that you're going to want to look at. These captain's chairs, though, are comfortable. We liked them a lot more than the stow-and-go seats that you get with the Chrysler Pacifica, for example. And these seats should be comfortable because they can't be stowed or easily removed. Well, of course, you can remove them with the right tools, much in the same way that you can remove anything with the right tools, but you get my point. But these captain's chairs have wide ranges of adjustment. I mean, check how far back this thing slides. That's great for taller passengers. I didn't even go as far back as I could. And the third row reclines. Because that second row isn't stowable and a few other reasons, the Sienna has less total cargo space on paper than its competitors. But what does that mean in the real world? Well, we measure cargo space with standard size carry-on luggage, and behind the third row, for example, we were able to fit 9 carry-ons, where in competitors like the Odyssey and the Pacifica, we could fit 11 or 12. So certainly a little bit less space back here, but in 40,000 miles of ownership, no one who took this thing on a long trip ever complained about cargo space. Another thing to keep in mind, though, is that these third row seats are stowable, just like that, but the mechanism that allows you to store them intrudes on the load space of the floor, so the load surface isn't entirely flat. One other thing we need to call out while we're back here is if you plan on carrying a bike carrier out of one of these guys, you're going to be in for a lot of annoyances. This car has a rear collision avoidance system that slams on the brakes every single time it senses something behind you that thinks you're going to back up into. And guess what? A rear-mounted bike carrier will trigger that alert all the time. And the only way to disable that feature is to go to the second page of the driver assist settings and turn it off, and you have to do that every single time you start the car. So if you plan on carrying a bike rack back here, be prepared because it is super annoying. As for driving the Sienna, the front seats were all day comfortable, but one complaint is that the front passenger seat isn't height adjustable, and that was annoying to some of our staffers. Now, this rear entertainment system was great for the kids, but when you flip it down, if I can reach for it like that, it of course blocks the rear view mirror, but that's why the rear view mirror has a camera in it, so you can flip that on and still see what's going on behind you. With 245 horsepower from its hybrid powertrain, the Sienna gets the job done. We recorded 60-mile-an-hour acceleration in 7.6 seconds, which is about what it feels when you're behind the wheel. And that's generally fine for commuting and similar to the all-wheel drive Chrysler Pacifica. If you really care about minivan drag races, know that the Odyssey is a touch over a second quicker to 60, and the previous V6 power generation of the Sienna was quicker too. I really like how smooth the power delivery is, especially at low speeds, like when you're driving in a parking lot or stop and go traffic. It's just the right kind of feel for those kind of situations. On the other hand, our logbook did have a lot of complaints about how noisy or drony the engine could be under wide open throttle, like when you're on a freeway on-ramp or making a pass, or on hilly terrain, like the hills of Pennsylvania, as one note in our logbook pointed out. But the interior is pretty quiet once you're underway. We recorded interior noise of 67 decibels at 70 miles an hour, which is right in line with competitors like the Odyssey, Pacifica, and Kia Carnival. Now, the trade-off for that droning and acceleration is fuel economy. Starting in 2021, all Siennas became only available as hybrids, and that meant a 15 mpg improvement over the previous generation. So that meant this Sienna gets either 35 or 36 mpg combined rating by the EPA, depending if you get all-wheel drive or front-wheel drive. And that's noteworthy because basically all other minivans that aren't hybrids have fuel economy ratings in the low 20 mpg range. How did we do after 40,000 miles? Well, we averaged 29 mpg, so that's quite a bit lower than the rating of this, which was 35 mpg because it's all-wheel drive. Now, generally, hybrids underperform their fuel economy rating in the real world, but that wasn't the only culprit here. When we first got this van, it was averaging around 32 mpg combined. But when we switched to a set of Michelin Cross Climate 2s for winter, that's what seems to have caused the other drop in fuel economy. Even with all that, our Sienna was still more fuel efficient than the other vans we've tested over 40,000 miles, including the Honda Odyssey we tested a few years back that got 23 mpg, and the Kia Carnival that we're currently evaluating, which is averaging 22 mpg as of the time of this recording. Based on anecdotal logbook notes, staffers got 30 mpg whether they were driving responsibly or admitted to driving like jerks. It really didn't seem to matter. Speaking of winter, let's talk about this Sienna's all-wheel drive system. It's unique among most other all-wheel drive systems because the rear axle is powered just by an electric motor. There's no drive shaft sneaking its way underneath the car from the engine to the rear wheels. Those wheels are just powered by electricity. And what's nice about this setup is that it can be used at any speed, unlike other versions of this hybrid rear axle, let's say. Now in winter, it did everything right, especially once we installed those Michelin Cross Climate 2s, and it didn't fall apart when it was dry either. And that's pretty much as nice of a compromise as you can hope for with a set of winter tires. We had two very minor service issues during our ownership of the Sienna. The first was this rear passenger door, which wouldn't fully close by itself. We took it to the service department and learned that it was actually some part of the weather stripping had dislodged and was doing an impersonation of a kid's finger, and the door obviously didn't want to shut on that. We probably could have fixed it ourselves, but hey, no big problem. The second one was this rear entertainment remote, which stopped working, and we learned that it was the sensor cover needed to be replaced, which it was under warranty. Other than that, we had 8 service visits, one every 5,000 miles, and that was for normal maintenance like oil and cabin air filters, tire rotation, and so on. The first 5 of those visits were free thanks to Toyota Care's complimentary service, and afterwards each one cost roughly $100. What else did we do? One of our team members attached a roof nest Falcon tent to the roof and went on a mini honeymoon camping trip. They removed the second row to make room for what he described as a mini duplex with space for the dog and gear stowed inside the van while they slept on top. This Sienna likes to beep a lot, and that made getting in and out, especially opening the doors or rear hatch at night, pretty annoying at the campsite, according to our editor. But he also reported that the van's EV mode made maneuvering the van at night really easy because it didn't make a ton of noise. He also said that this thing got a ton of attention with the roof tent installed. A lot of people coming up and asking questions, but also with the van loaded up with the tent and cargo and dog and whatnot, it pushed down the rear end and made it sag quite a bit more. And that made the trailer hitch that we have installed drag, because the departure angle on this thing isn't that great to begin with, and we just put more stuff on it and brought it closer to the ground. Overall, don't think this as an overlander, which should be obvious. So what do we think after 40,000 miles? Well, the Toyota Sienna is a good and responsible evolution of a very capable people hauler. Not only do you get the comfort and utility you'd expect from a minivan, but you also get significant fuel economy improvements that mean real-world savings at the pump every month. If you can live with some of the quirks that we mentioned, like the engine droning and so on, you'll be served very well by the Sienna.